Happy New Year, you sweet musical cherubs. Trumpeter Bobby Spellman here to welcome you to another exciting episode of Trumpet with Bob. Well, we made it to 2023, and if one of your New Year's resolutions is to practice more, well, you're already on the path to musical righteousness, and I am here to help you get the most out of your practice routines. One of the questions that I'm asked most often by my students is, how much should I be practicing? And the general answer to that is always, how good do you want to be? Generally speaking, the more time that you can spend with a trumpet on your face, working on your exercises and practicing, the better you're going to get and the faster you're going to get there. That being said, inefficient practice can really be a big waste of time, and if you're not approaching it from the mentality of an athlete, then you can find yourself struggling to get to where you're trying to go. So today I wanted to take a little time to talk about how I like to structure my practice routines and ways that you can approach practicing to get the most out of your practice sessions and make the most of your time so that you can get to playing the trumpet and having a wonderful musical experience as quickly as possible. I like to split my practice routines into 3 important rounds. And this is a way of organizing my practicing so that I get the most out of each component of my practicing and that I can use my time efficiently in order to really hit on those things that I need to do in order to be an adequate trumpet player for what it is that I'm trying to do in a real-world musical circumstance. Those 3 sections start with round 1, the warm-up. To be a trumpet player is to be an athlete, and just like other athletes, we've got to warm up before we start to get into some serious trumpet activities. Now, warming up is the process of gradually engaging your muscles in order to increase the dilation of your blood vessels, in order to ensure that there's enough oxygen in your muscles once you start getting into some more strenuous musical activities. Now, I've found that warming up has a gigantic impact on how I feel for the rest of the day, and I strongly encourage it. It's number 1 for a reason on my list of musical practice rounds, and I always do my warm-ups first thing in the morning. I'll wake up in the morning, set a particular time to make sure that I get that warm-up in, and I'll usually spend about 15 to 30 minutes warming up, and that will ensure that I'm feeling good for the rest of the day. When I warm up in the morning, I find that I only have to do a very short warm-up before I play for the rest of the day. So warm-ups can be separate from other practice routines or playing, but I've always found that warming up really has a huge impact on my playing for the rest of the day. So, what do you do to warm up? My first thing that I will do is long tones. This enables me to just engage my muscles and let my lips buzz and just, without putting too much stress or effort on it, just play one note, really try to find the center of the pitch, get my breathing in order, etc., etc. I made a little video on the ways that I like to do long tones that you can check out. I'll put the link down in the description. Once I do long tones for, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes, I like to get into the Carmine Caruso Musical Calisthenics for Brass 6 notes. It's the first 6 notes that starts this book. It's also the first 6 notes that starts Flexus, which is another one of my very favorite musical calisthenics books, written by John McNeil and Laurie Frink. So you just do 6 notes. All that's involved in that is very simply playing up the chromatic scale from G up to C, going back to G, and then coming up to C. Etc. Now, once again, with these exercises, your goal is to stay in the middle register of the instrument because you're not trying to put too much effort on your muscles. You're not trying to really work your muscles out. You're just engaging your muscles and you're just getting your lips to vibrate in order to prepare yourself for the more strenuous physical trumpet exercises that you're going to have to do later on. So, once I get those 6 notes in and I'm starting to feel good, I will go on to doing some very simple, comfortable flexibility exercises. That may be, for example, flexibility exercise 1 in the Flexus book, or any other flexibility exercise, often called lip slurs, that you do that isn't going to give yourself too hard a time, but is going to ease you into the athletic portion of practicing the trumpet. I'll give you an example. This is also a perfect time to run through any scales you've been working on in one octave. Again, you don't want to be traveling up into the stratosphere just yet, but if you're working on some scales and you want to cover the comfortable range of the instrument, that'll get you warmed up. It's also a good time to do the Clark studies and any other kinds of repetitive technical exercises that you've been working on that don't put too much stress on your face. One thing that I like to remember, no matter what stage of the practice routine I'm in, is that I'm trying to be as efficient as possible, and we've got a limited amount of time. So you want to try to fit as many exercises into each exercise as possible. One example is when I do the Clark study number 2, which I'll demonstrate shortly. I will not only take advantage of the thinking about the scales and the key that I'm in and the fingerings involved, but I'll also make sure to articulate each of the notes in order to be able to coordinate my tongue and my fingers and get everything warmed up at once. So anything that you can do to incorporate many different technical exercises into each little study is a great way to go in order to be as efficient as possible. So that might sound something like this. Or for example, if I'm working on jazz tonguing, I might choose to jazz tongue this particular exercise just to get that practice in. All right, from here, you're starting to get warmed up. You're feeling good. It's about 15 to 30 minutes of just getting your muscles ready to go for the rest of the day. Now it's time to hit round 2, exercise. As you may be aware by now, trumpet is a fairly physically demanding instrument, and playing trumpet requires that we really take the time to push ourselves to new heights and to ensure that we're maintaining the physical capacity required to be able to perform when we need to in a real-life musical setting. It's important to remember that practicing difficult exercises when tired can lead to bad habits. So I always try to put the more strenuous physical trumpet activities like range exercises, endurance exercises, complicated flexibilities, etc. at the beginning of my practice routine right after my warm-up. This ensures that my muscles are warmed up and they're ready to go, and I'm going to get the most out of the more difficult exercises that I might practice for the day without getting into bad habits that I might develop if I'm trying to practice when really tired at the end of the day. This is a good time in your practice routine to work on some more physically demanding flexibility exercises like you might find in Flexus. Or range and endurance exercises like you might find in exercise 2 of the Caruso book, or in my friend Augie Haas's Build Your Range. This is also a great time to work on any scales or patterns that span the whole range of the instrument, or any particularly strenuous articulation or fingering exercises. Anything that's really going to put some strain on your muscles should go in this beginning section, the exercise section of your practice routine, in order to ensure that you get the most out of your muscles and that you don't fall into bad habits practicing tired. Now, usually my exercise routine will last for 30 minutes to an hour. Whatever you need in order to really get the most out of your practicing, and whatever you can account for in terms of the schedule throughout the rest of your day. And as you practice, you really want to remember to pay attention to the way that your body feels. You should always be feeling like you're pushing your muscles, but you never want to feel any kind of sharp pain, because you can really end up injuring yourself if you overdo it and you play trumpet exercises inefficiently, things of that nature. So really pay attention to your body. If you're feeling your muscles work, you're doing the right thing. If you're feeling any sharp pains, you may want to take a break. You also may want to take a break in between physical trumpet exercises. So if you play, for example, flexibilities, and then you want to take 5 minutes off before you start playing, your range exercises, things of that nature. Rest is an extremely important part of trumpet practicing, which brings me to my next intermediate section, which is a break. At this point, after doing your physical trumpet exercises, you got to take a break. Resting is a critical part of practicing the trumpet, and it will ensure that you get the most out of your practice routine. Now you might say, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with all this free time in between my practice session rounds, Bob? Well, you could work on your ear training and your music theory. La, 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 la. You could work on other tasks that you have to do during the day. You could play the banjo. You could, whatever it is that you find productive or useful or restful in this time. I'll usually take 15 minutes to 30 minutes off, or perhaps go about my day and, find another little segment of my day in which to work on the next round, the fun part, music. All right, now that you've eaten your vegetables, you get dessert. This is the fun part of practicing. You get to work on the music that you've been trying to play, tunes that you've been doing, pieces that you're working on, stuff that require not just the physical nature of playing the trumpet, but your very soul, your emotions, your intellect, all the other parts that go into playing trumpet. This comes in the third round, playing music. So if you're working on a new piece, now's a good time to take that out. If you're working on improvising different scales and patterns over tunes, things of that nature, if you're doing transcriptions, what have you, this is a perfect time to do this. You've warmed up, you've really worked out your muscles, and now it's time to engage your capacity, your full capacity for trumpet playing in order to really get the most out of what it is to be a trumpet player, which is to be a musician and to create beautiful music for yourself and the people around you. All right, so this is the fun part. Now, you can break this up into several sections, where the other sections I usually have, a finite amount of time that I'll do a warm-up, or a finite amount of time I'll do exercises. Now, once you've gotten through the exercises, once you're playing music, you could really break this up into any number of segments throughout the day. So you may find that you spend 45 minutes on a new tune that you're working on, and then take a break again, and then spend another 45 minutes on, reading or on new pieces or whatever it happens to be. Now, once again, you want to remember that you really want to take a break in between these different exercises, in between these different practice routine segments, and that will just enable you to make sure that your muscles are fresh when you come back to the trumpet, and it'll improve your endurance and your range and your capacity for all things musical. All right, and there we have the 3 rounds of any effective trumpet practice routine. The warm-up for 15 to 30 minutes, making sure that you're getting the blood flowing to your face and that you're prepared to take on the musical activities for the rest of the day. Your exercise round for between 30 minutes and an hour, really pushing your muscles to be able to encounter any musical activity with ease. And finally, the third round, the musical round, in which you can practice not just the physical element of playing the trumpet, but also the intellectual and emotional and spiritual elements of taking what you know about playing the instrument and applying it to making beautiful music for yourself and others. Now, if there's one piece of advice that I can give for all of this that will help in gaining musical facility and getting the most out of your practice routines, it is to be consistent. Consistency is critical for success. I remember back when I was in high school, I used to try to, I used to cram for my history exams, things like that, stay up late studying, making sure that I memorized everything at the last minute. You can't cram for trumpet playing. This is the kind of thing that you have to be doing on a regular basis in order to get the most out of it. And every trumpet player will comment that if you take a couple of days off, suddenly your facility decreases precipitously. So it's best to make sure that you're spending time consistently throughout the week. It's much better to spend half an hour practicing every day than it is to try to fit in 4 hours at a time on Sunday, for example. Your best bet is to try to find times throughout the day where you could be guaranteed to have time to practice. Really work it into your schedule. You wouldn't forget to brush your teeth every day, and in the same sense, you have to try to find a particular time of the day that works for you. Now, if you're like me, your schedule may be completely bonkers, and you've got to find different times and different days of the week to get that practice in, and I get it. But the real trick to all of this is making sure that you spend a certain amount of time in consistent intervals really practicing. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be every day. It could be 1 day on, 1 day off. It could be 2 days on, 1 day off, etc., etc. All of this really will have to do with the amount of time that you're, trying to devote to playing the trumpet. If you are a professional person and you're a trumpet hobbyist and you'd like to be able to play in musical circumstances, but it doesn't have to be your whole life, you may not have the time that you may only have a certain amount of time to practice, and that's totally fine. And if you're, trying to be a professional trumpet player, you're going to have to devote a different amount of time to this. So it really depends on the individual, but as long as you can be consistent in your practice and really find time for all 3 of these rounds in your practice routine, you will find that you will gain much momentum as a trumpet player, and you will have a wonderful time playing the trumpet and making beautiful music. All right, gang. Well, there you have it. A little breakdown of an ideal practice routine and ways that you can approach practicing. I hope you enjoyed this video and it helps in your quest for musical excellence. If you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to post any questions that you may have down in the comments below, or any other ideas for videos that you'd like me to make in the future. Anything that you're trying to work on that you would like a little bit more advice on, be sure to pop them in the comments and I'll try to work on it. My New Year's resolutions this year, I'm going to tell you now, and we're going to follow up for the rest of the year, all right? One is to be more consistent with my video production. So hopefully you'll see some more videos from me this year on the Ridgewood School of Music channel. I'm also going to work on my range, and I'm going to bring you along for the ride. So I'm going to make a couple of videos based on expanding my range. That will be my New Year's resolution personally, as well as making sure to take the time to practice as much as I can. All right, gang. Have a wonderful time practicing, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya. Trumpet with Bob. All right, friends, thanks so much for checking out this video. I hope it helps in your pursuit of the majesty of musical self-expression. If you like what we're doing here, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Big thanks to all the new subscribers. We really appreciate your support, and we're going to keep putting out some new videos for you. The Ridgewood School of Music is now accepting new students for lessons online as well as in person in the Brooklyn, Queens, and greater New York City area. You can find us on our website at www.ridgewoodschoolofmusic.com, and you can send us a message, and we would love to help you achieve all of your musical dreams. For some more musical fun, you can also follow me, Bobby Spellman, on Instagram at Bob Spellman, or in any of the other social media platforms listed in the description below. Thanks again for checking out this video. Happy practicing, and we'll catch you next time. "2023, here we come!"